So, all right. So now we know that, I mean, the biggest thing people have an issue with in this game is just the deception that was in play leading up to its release. I think if they showed us the PS4 and the Xbox One and it was that bad, people would be like, well, I'm just not going to buy that game. And I feel like it wouldn't have been, it would have been still a whole story on its own, but it definitely wouldn't have been. I think they tricked us into buying this game.
The deception is beyond even the lack of PlayStation 4 and Xbox One base footage. They had deception to shareholders where they said,
yes,
it runs well. And then they come out with a statement in the last week of, we should have paid more attention to those versions. Which version did you pay attention to? You released 3 versions, PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. And you're openly admitting now that you didn't pay attention to 2/3 of these releases. So they should have just came out and said, a year plus ago, this game is coming to PC in 2020. We will consider bringing it to PS4 and Xbox One or PS5 and Series X in late 2021 or early 2022. Because what they released last week or earlier this month was just a PC version of this game. The console versions do not exist. This was a bullshit scam from day one, and the only reason it's on PS4 and Xbox One this month is a holiday cash grab.
Yeah, I honestly, I think there's one thing that a lot of us aren't really considering is that, like Nate just said, 2/3 of the versions weren't focused on. So what were they focusing on? The chairs. They were focusing on those Cyberpunk 2077 chairs. It worked, man. Because they knew that was going to be the biggest big thing.
Oh my god!
I thought you had something to say.
Me too. I thought you was gonna That's why I'm always sus when we play Among Us. I'm gonna go right, I go left.
So I do have another quote for you, Nate.
It's really dark in here.
Well, hold on, I got a quick question for Grub. So Jeff, when you review the game and you go through the embargo, you kind of pick the version you want to play, and sometimes you don't get the version that you want. I'm not sure which one you picked, but obviously they gave you the PC version. Was there any point during that process, that embargo process, that something fell off with you when you were looking at this game, or did it just kind of feel like another game review?
Yeah, so every single game is a little bit different. So when there's something that's like different, you're just like, you roll with the punches normally, because it's software, it's messy, it's never the same thing. It's never just like go to the movie theater, watch the movie, review the movie. Games are a lot more complicated than that. And so in hindsight, I feel like I probably should have felt it was a little bit weird when they first offered us codes. There's a website you go to, a PR website. It's a great PR website where you can go and request codes. You guys are probably familiar with the one I'm talking about.
Yep.
And you go there and you say which version you want. And at that point, they gave us an opportunity to request any version that we wanted. Then a few days later, around Thanksgiving, a different internal PR person at CD Projekt Red reached out to us and said, "Hey, we have the PC codes ready to go, and then do you want one?" It's like, okay, why did that shift happen? Why were we like over here for one thing? We're at this very useful website where you could get the code wherever you wanted, and now we're over here with clearly a much smaller group of people. Now we're talking now like NDAs are being mentioned, which is not always normal for most reviews. Mostly it's just verbal embargoes where you agree to something. NDAs aren't that common with reviews. At that point, I feel like I probably should have noticed something, but NDAs are becoming slightly more common recently, and this is a big game, and it's like, and games do get finished on one platform, and the codes are ready for, and the code is coming from GOG. Well, they own GOG; they can get as many codes as they want. So if they're struggling to get codes from Sony or Microsoft, these are the excuses we make in our head as we're going through this process. Really, I'm just thinking about like, all right, man, this release date's getting really close. Okay, the review embargo's this day. Okay, I got 6 days. I'm thinking about the work I have to do playing this game and reviewing it. That's where all my energy is going toward that. It's hard to to begin questioning whether the motives of these companies, especially when the recent experience in recent history, most of these companies have been very, very upfront and they're aware that they could look really bad if they mess up this process, and they don't try to deceive us. They don't try to deceive the media. This has been the recent history over the last 5-6 years that it hasn't really happened, especially with a game of this size, especially with a company, CD Projekt Red, that has this really good reputation. So it's easy to just make excuses for them and just say, okay, I just got this work. Let's get this work done. Let's get this review done. And I'm even going to assume that the review I'm giving for this PC version is mostly going to apply to these console versions. Yeah. And at no point did anyone from CD Projekt Red ever suggest that wasn't the case. And that's where, like, when I was writing those tweets and wrote my article saying I felt duped, that was a big part of it. It's they know, we don't. How am I really supposed to know? Especially when you've never ever suggested that anything that it could be otherwise, and that was very frustrating.
They kept the bumpers on. I mean, you weren't allowed to stray too far. So
exactly, yeah, and then and when you get treated like a horse being led along, led along the path, it's easy to feel very resentful, and I'm pretty resentful.
Sure.
Management and PR really did this game dirty. Like for 2 years, I brought this up multiple times every time they showed something off for 2 years, at least since 2018's E3, where they had behind closed doors showings of it. And the problem was every time they showed some gameplay or showed a piece in private or put something online, it was curated to a point with that what they showed was never the game. They showed off stuff that was a lie, so then they can go back to the developers and say, okay, make it this, live up to this expectation. And that was the biggest problem. They can never live up to that expectation because the expectations every time it was shown off was pushed past a barrier that they were not ready to be at yet. If this game had another year, I don't even think it could live up to the stuff we saw back in 2018. And that's just being light on that. The developers, I think, were, working their asses off trying to get what they could do to pull this last second release off. But this is on management. This is on the people publishing the game. This is not on the developers. Sure, there's other things you can blame on them, but they are still trying to make a game. It's not their fault. They didn't say, okay, it's ready to go.
Right.
So was it strange when they told you can only use the B-roll footage they provide?
That was another. It was slightly strange. So this happens somewhat frequently, where you get a written review embargo, and then they start telling you like when you can start putting out your own video content. Sony has a lot of this stuff, but usually that first embargo, you can post something from the game. You can post like the first level, and even like through like for like a second video embargo, they often have like a long list of stipulations. They have this great Google Doc you go through and you like click through and you make sure that you see each one individually. It's very well done, and you understand 100% what you're supposed to be doing. It is a little bit more rare to have an embargo where it's just like only B-roll, and then another one that's only video, or that where you can actually start posting your video. But where I make excuses in my brain during this process is, well, that second embargo, that video embargo, is also prior to release, or at least it looked like it was, like, because the release date is December 10th. This is December 9th, and I think it like lined up where it was like, it was pretty close.
It was
to, like,
the
when
interesting
people start
thing,
playing the game.
because what I was planning on doing, because I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to get this game as soon as I can so I can check it out, because we've been talking about it for like 8 years or something. So what I did was I looked online, and people were like, oh, just change your region on your Xbox to New Zealand, and it's like you can play it on the 9th. Then you can play it at noon on the 9th, and I was like, oh, great, because I saw the articles that were put up for the amount of bugs and stuff on PC. I was like, all right, good. So I can get it pretty early then and check it out. And as soon as that time hit, just about, I got an email, and it's like, here's your PS4 code from CD Projekt. I was like, that is exactly on release then that they were sending these out. And so that's when I downloaded it on the PlayStation and started playing it. But yeah, they waited until exactly the game came out to send the codes out for that.
It's really,
and it's deliberate. It's done with full knowledge of what they're doing. If you are trying to sell a product, and you have billions of dollars on the line, I somewhat don't blame anyone for trying to put their best foot forward. And another way of saying that is to manipulate the situation to be, to your advantage at every turn. You have to draw the line. If you're one of these companies where when you begin including other people in your manipulation without giving them full knowledge and full consent to what they're doing. And, we see them treating Sony and Microsoft very similarly. And so I'm not surprised that they would do that to the media, because what's the media compared to Sony and Microsoft? But this is clearly a company, I think, that felt like they were going to be able to get away with anything.